Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a special session of the City Council to be held on Monday, March 2nd, 2026 at 5:15 p.m. in the Historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting a work session on budget, process, resources, and online transparency tools.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a special session of the Dubuque City Council for March 2nd, 2026. As a reminder to viewers and listeners, due to the nature of tonight's meeting topic, public input is not accepted. However, you may contact the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council contacts. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Leyendecker.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Staver.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Our work session topic is budget process resources and online transparency tools. I will turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Larson, the Chief Financial Officer. I also have with me Budget Manager Laura Bendorf, who will also be presenting tonight. So tonight is intended to walk through how the city budget works, how our funds are structured, how we receive and spend money, and what tools are available to help everyone in the community, not just here, understand our finances. So looking at how city funds work, we operate through legally separate funds. So in Iowa, cities do not have one single bucket of money. We operate through these separate funds with its own purposes and restrictions. So that means we cannot freely move money from one fund just to another just because a need arises. So it's key to understand those fund boundaries and those limitations when we're making budget decisions. So looking at the types of funds that we have, first we have governmental funds. So those are covering our day-to-day services and restricted revenues, capital projects, and debt payments. And then we have proprietary funds. So those operate more like businesses, such as water, sewer, parking, and transit. And then each fund serves a specific purpose. And it has rules for how those revenues are used. We also have major revenue categories. So we have revenues coming from a mix of taxes, fees, permits, rents, interest earnings, grants, and transfers. We have diversified revenues that helps maintain our stability and reduces reliance on any one funding stream. And not all revenue is flexible. So again, some are legally restricted, and some revenues are tied to specific activities. Looking at the general fund, which is the city's main fund where property taxes go, that fund supports public safety, so police, fire, E911, ambulance, and then also things like Parks and Rec, library, and all of our administrative departments, as well as planning and zoning. These services rely heavily on property taxes and other general revenue. Looking at the general fund levy, so this is the levy that computes what property tax amounts goes into the general fund. Under state law, it's capped at $8.10. However, with the legislation that passed in 2023, we are capped depending on the city's taxable valuation growth from year to year. So that is adjusted by state mandated adjustment factors. So in 26, our general fund levy is actually $7.63 per thousand. So below the $8.10 based on our taxable valuation growth. Looking at the other property tax levies, we do have a transit levy, and that supports the dual transit system. We have the tort liability levy, that's for our insurance costs, so property liability, those types of insurance costs. And then we have a trust and agency levy, so that pays our employee benefit costs. And of course, each of these are restricted for a specific purpose. Looking at our major revenues in the general fund, we have the hotel motel tax, and that's 7%. And the state requires that half of this tax goes to support tourism, and we do that through Travel Dubuque. This revenue collects about $3.1 million per year. And then the other half of this revenue goes to general property tax relief for residents. So it supports both economic development and also reduces the burden on taxpayers. The next larger revenue source other than property taxes is local option sales tax. It was approved by voters, and by resolution, it was divided into 3 uses. 50% goes to property tax relief, 30% goes to street special assessment relief, so towards street projects within the city, and then 20% for facility maintenance, riverfront, and economic development and transit equipment. So we collect about $12.5 million in local option sales tax. And again, it's another way we keep property taxes lower while supporting our vital infrastructure. We also have gaming revenue. So the city owns the Q Casino, which is operated by the Dubuque Racing Association. And as part of that, there is lease revenue provided. And then we also get reimbursements for police overtime for casino security. In '26, that support totaled $8.7 million. Another revenue source is franchise fees. So this is both electric and gas franchise fees. So it's collected from utilities for the use of the city's public right-of-way. And these are capped at 5% by the state, and they're dedicated to property tax relief. This generates about $6 million, again, diversifying our revenues without increasing property taxes. The city also has many general fund leases as a revenue source. So this comes from things like riverfront property leases, city-owned buildings and land, wharfage, and airport facilities. In '26, it is estimated to bring in $6.2 million, and it contributes to the general fund and property tax relief. We also have charges for service in the general fund, so this would include services like ambulance fees, park and recreation, airport, building plan fees. So looking at the amounts in these types of categories, ambulance fees generates in '26 about $5.5 million, park and rec fees $1.3 million, airport fees about $142,000, and building plan fees about $104,000. The city also issues permits and licenses, and so that can come in the form of animal licenses, rental licenses, building permits, business licenses, and more. That totals about $2.2 million, and this helps cover the administrative costs of regulation and service delivery. Interest revenue, we are collecting interest on the cash that we have, and this is specifically for the general fund. So our interest earnings have grown significantly in recent years. So as interest rates increased, our investment income rose from about $500,000 a few years ago to $4.8 million today, and now interest rates are declining. So the next type of funds that the city has are special revenue funds. So these are all legally restricted. For example, road use tax can only be used for roads, never for police or parks. TIF revenue must stay within the urban renewal area that generates it. Housing voucher funds must follow strict federal regulations. So special revenue funds are not flexible dollars, but they may support essential services that the city offers. The next type of fund is capital project funds. So we use these funds to pay for major construction and large-scale improvements, so things like streets, stormwater mitigation, facility maintenance, airport improvements, and projects in TIF districts. These are often multi-year efforts aligned with long-term planning. And then we also have permanent funds. So these are donor-restricted contributions that were given to the city for specific purposes. So we have the P&E Trail Trust Fund and the Library Gift Funds, and only the earnings, not the principal, may be used for the purposes set by the donors. We also have a debt service fund. So this fund pays the principal and interest on the city's general obligation bonds, and it's funded through a small dedicated levy and transfers from other funds to pay that debt service. And then moving into the enterprise funds, so these are funds such as water, sanitary sewer, stormwater, refuse, parking, and transit. These all function like utilities. So their rates must be set to cover their full costs, including infrastructure, maintenance, and debt. They do not subsidize the general fund, though they do pay an the general fund for administrative support through an administrative overhead rate. I will also say the transit fund does have a levy there, so it is not self-supporting, but it is still considered an enterprise fund under the Iowa Code. We also have internal service funds. So these funds are intended to support internal operations. So we, for example, have a city garage that does fleet maintenance, and they recharge the departments that use that service. We have a health insurance fund to make sure we're recharging departments for that share of costs. And we also have internal service funds for supplies and engineering services. This slide shows the different state programs, government activities by program that we're legally required to budget for. So this is how our services are organized into these program areas. So understanding these categories help explain how resources are allocated and how the budget is presented in our budget documents. So this is essentially how our reporting in our budget looks based on these programs. And now I'm going to have Laura come up, and she's going to talk about the budget piece.
So we view the budget through three lenses: operating, which is daily services; capital, long-term investments; debt repayment of past capital. These perspectives help guide funding decisions, and long-range planning. The operating budget covers recurring annual costs, employees, supplies, utilities, small equipment. This is the portion of the budget that keeps services running every day. Excuse me. The CIP is our 5-year infrastructure plan. The first year is adopted as part of the annual budget, while years 2 through 5 are updated each year based on needs and priorities. As you can see, our budget is a year-round effort. It includes goal setting, training, public input, departmental requests, and multiple rounds of review by the city manager and city council. Final adoption occurs in April, with amendments made in May. We produce several core documents each year: the residence budget guide, the capital improvement program, and the policy budget. Each serves a different audience and provides varying levels of detail. The residence budget guide is designed for the general public. It uses visuals, summaries, and narrative explanations to make the budget understandable at a glance. The budget overviews in the residence guide provide documents that include the city manager's budget message, the budget in brief, rate comparisons, cost of service analyses, and summaries of improvements and staffing changes. Our financial summaries show how property taxes are distributed, where revenue comes from, how money is spent, and the city's total expenditures. Second of the three documents, the CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. So each CIP project includes a description, justification, funding sources, department, and alignment with broader city plans. It's our primary tool for managing long-term infrastructure. In our third document, the policy. The policy budget provides the deepest detail. It includes department performance measures, the line item budget, staffing summaries, and service level changes. All budget documents from 2020 to today are available online at cityofdubuque.org/budget. You can submit budget ideas there and find meeting materials. Our online transparency tools, Open Budget, Open Checkbook, Balancing Act, and the Taxpayer Receipt allow residents to explore the budget, view spending, experiment with balancing their own budget, and see how their taxes are used. Thank you for your attention. We're happy to answer any questions and walk through any part of the budget structure in more detail.
Okay, well, thank you both. All right. Happy to have a discussion here. So thank you, first of all, for that. It's a really interesting overview of what what we're really looking at and why we go through the process we go through and what we go through. I think there's a couple slides on there that are particularly telling for everybody to be able to see. But open it up for questions and any discussion we want to have. Yeah, Ms. Michelle.
Thanks. First of all, I like the format. I think it makes it really understandable and it is a good reference tool. So I asked for a paper copy so I can refer to it, which I will. So thank you. You talked about the local option sales tax and how it's broken down and that it was established by referendum. So if we were to want to change that percentage, would it require a new referendum or how would that work if we wanted to change those percentages?
I'm going to refer to Krenna.
Say that again for me, please.
Sure. The local option sales tax established by voter referendum. And we have 3 different percentages, 50, 30, and 20 in different areas. If we were to want to change that, would it require a referendum or how would that be, could that be adjusted?
So I would need to go back and pull the original referendum to see if those specific percentages were in there. My recollection is they are.
Yeah.
And so if those are in there, in order to modify that, I believe it would need to go back to the voters for reallocation or to potentially remove the percentages and just say it's going to go towards generally these things without a specific percentage. But I would have to do a little bit of digging in that for you, but I would be happy to bring that back.
Okay, thank you. Just food for thought. Thank you.
All right. Eric, could you take us off the screen, please? I still see us up there. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle somewhat. I was trying to figure things out because I was I was considering different rates that were, like we have a 3% recommended. And I was trying to figure out what to do and what effect certain different rates would have to be. So I just used a proportion. If this amount is 3%, then proportionality, a different number goes with my certain numbers that I was trying out, right? But it's not that easy. It sounds like that if I were to say, instead of 3%, we would do X percent. Is that something we can do quickly or not really? I mean, what if we're tonight, I know I don't want to talk about this yet, but I mean, it seems like it's too complicated just to make it a simple process like I was trying to do, just a proportionality, right? So what's involved in all this to put it together into final package number?
Okay, so I think I understood your question. So you're looking at if the tax rate was set at a different rate, that was an impact of 2% to the average homeowner, would we be able to calculate that quickly? And the answer is yes. We do have software tools that we use, that we have built out where we can do different scenarios pretty quickly, depending on what the council would be looking to get information on.
I mean, you have all those tools to hear tonight,
Yep.
but I really couldn't do that at home because I was just poking about. I maybe got close.
Yeah, so the tax rate essentially is set on the city's general taxable value, and it's per 1,000.
Sure.
So you can kind of back into what you're looking for by just keeping that base calculation in mind.
Okay, because what were there, 8 different funding sources and
Right.
and about 20 different ways to spend it, and you have to figure out how they all interconnect and all that.
Right,
So
yeah.
I won't feel bad about my not being able to be precise tonight. But thank you for being here and this presentation, giving us and our residents an idea of what everything you go through. My last question is, does everything change if something changes from the state, or is the state done with the possibilities and we know exactly what they're doing so we can be secure tonight with what we're doing?
So you're talking about property tax legislation that's currently being discussed. The answer would be no. There's no resolution in the legislature yet. So these numbers are without being able to foresee what might happen because it's too hard to predict right now.
So if something happens, maybe I could talk to Corinne about this. If something happens in the State House that would change everything, we need to go through this process again? to set the number, set the levy number?
Well, so the good news is all the legislation they're considering so far, they say will not take effect until fiscal year '28.
Okay,
So your next budget cycle. So hopefully they stick with that theme.
okay, great. Good information. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other discussion? Could you actually pull up something that you have on the online transparency tools slide?
Yeah, I could,
The taxpayer receipt?
Yep,
I was wondering if we could look at that just on the screen.
if I can get out of the presentation. Oh, there we go. All right, so on our website, if you go to departments, under budget is where you can find our budget tools. I'm just gonna head to the 2027 budget. I'll point out a couple of things. On this page, you can actually submit your ideas for the city budget online, and you can either fill in your name or not fill in your name, so those are options. And you'll find all of the budget documents here once they're published. And then also there's the taxpayer receipt, which will generate a receipt based on the taxable value of your home and show you exactly where your money's going for your city portion of your taxes to city services. We also have this Balancing Act budget simulator, which shows the budget as a whole and allows residents to interact with it. So it's pretty simple. You just go in here, do you own a home? Yes. And we'll just make up a taxable value of a home, so.
What's the midpoint? I know we use that a lot,
So in '27, it's about 212,000 prior to rollback and prior to the homestead credit. So those both would be taken into account. And you can find your taxable value of your home on Beacon, the website the assessor uses. And if you click on this little eye, it will actually help you go through that process. But I'm just gonna fill in a random number here and pretend it's my assessable value. So 149,700. You just click the button, view your tax receipt. So this is for 2026. And it generates a handy little receipt here that shows you in total what you pay in taxes. $340 goes to arts, parks, recreation, library, convention, civic center, and then it breaks those down. And then if you have a question like, I don't know what community impact is, you can click on the little I, and it's gonna give you more information, and then you can click again and get even more information. And you can go down, and of course, you can see public safety is the largest, $785.96. Again, it breaks it down by department under public safety. We have community and economic development, and then administration, technology, legal, building maintenance, city council. So the admin departments is 140, and it breaks those down. And then it gives you a total, so $1,506 on that home value I put in. So if anyone's curious about where their city taxes are going, this is a great tool.
And that's the city portion.
That is
of
only the
taxes.
city portion. So it
does-
would not show county or school district or NICC.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I was playing around with this the other day just to look at it as we have these discussions about the taxpayer receipt that taxpayers are going to get that the state requires to send out. So I'll say this now, I'm probably going to say it again later tonight when we talk about this, and probably say it again a few more times as we go through the budget process. That taxpayer form you're going to get is wrong. It doesn't give you the correct amount for what you're really paying in taxes to the city of Dubuque. There's some numbers on there that are generally going to be correct, but it's going to be confusing and it's not going to tell you that. To the state legislature's credit, they recognize this. And I think that we're really going to see a new form come through that shows us something more like this. I mean, you know, as a taxpayer who owns a home, this is what I want to see. I want to know what the city's charging me for each of these different things, you know, that if my home was that value, it'd be, you know, parks is that $96 right there that, you know, I'm paying for. What is my return on investment for what I'm paying in those taxes to be able to get in that? So I appreciate that we have this. And how long have we had this tool on the website? It's only been a few years, right?
We implemented in 2018.
In 2018, more than just a few years, so that's great. So we have this opportunity to be able to have all this information right there for everybody.
I'm not sure if you're interested in me showing what I call the open checkbook, but we have those.
I sure am interested.
Okay.
That sounds wonderful. Let's do it.
All right, so again, you can go under city departments, and in this case, I'm gonna select finance, just to pick a different department, but very easy, off to the right here, it says Explore Dubuque's open expenses, so you just click on that. This is updated real time. Takes a second to load, but it will show you our budget, so our projected revenues, our projected expenses, our total expenses to date, and then you can click on it to explore more in here, and then you can look at other information, and I don't think it's loading, unfortunately. Oh, sorry, it's the wrong year. That would help. So you can see it breaks it down by department, and if you're like, wow, engineering, I want to see what's happening in engineering, you can click on that, and it'll bring you in. And you can see most of engineering's money is spent in capital projects. So again, you can click into that again, and you can see, wow, okay, here are the vendors that are being paid by engineering. You can do this for any department. And if I want to pick on Tricon, I can click on Tricon, and it will give you more information here. And everything in here can be exported to like a CSV file to Excel. So it's pretty interesting. So if you click on checkbook, you can actually get to actual payments. So you can see the actual payments that have been made to Tricon, even the check number. So we literally have the city's checkbook open for any resident to see if they're concerned where our payments are going. Well, this has been implemented since 2016, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for showing that.
Yeah.
And if residents do have a question, they're looking through something like this and they want to know, okay, why are we paying that much money to that particular organization for this particular project? What is usually the best way to be able to find out more information about that?
Residents can start with the finance department because we can at least dive into what they're looking at and get them directed to the right department, or we can request the information to the department and get back to the residents. So, yeah, I would say finance. So 589-4398 is our main number. So.
All right. Thanks, Jenny.
Yep.
All right. Yes, Mr. Resident.
Just quickly, what happens to the comments on the budget and the open checkbook that you receive from residents? So you review them.
So the online form that is out there where you can just type in whatever budget ideas you would like, submits, and it goes to myself, budget manager Laura Bendorf, and it's shared with the city manager. And it also goes to Adrian, because at our public hearing, it will be shared as public comment during the budget adoption. But yes, we take into account all public input, and if it should be included in the recommended budget.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing no further questions or discussion, that's all you have for us this
Yep,
evening?
that's all
Okay,
we have.
wonderful. Well, then, we have no further business in this work session. We will reconvene at 6:30. Thank you very much for this presentation.